At exactly 0317 hours on March 2nd, 2026, in the pitch-black airspace above Tehran, an IDF F-35I Adir, traveling at Mach 1.6, fired a Python 5 air-to-air missile at a Russian-made Iranian Yak-130 fighter operating under combat tasking out of Mehrabad Air Base. The lock was clean. The launch was instant. 3 seconds later, a fireball over the eastern Tehran skyline marked the first time in history that an F-35 had shot down a manned aircraft in air-to-air combat, and the first Israeli aerial kill since 1985. Within 47 minutes, that single engagement ignited a second front 1,200 kilometers away, where Hezbollah's Radwan force had been waiting in fortified southern Lebanon tunnels for exactly this signal. This was not a random escalation. This was a trap sprung on the entire region simultaneously. The architecture of a multi-front war. To understand what detonated across the Middle East in early March 2026, rewind to February 28th, when U.S. CENTCOM and the Israeli Air Force executed Operation Roaring Lion, a coordinated strike package against 200-plus targets across Iran. The operation eliminated Supreme Leader Khamenei, Chief of Staff General Mousavi, SPND Director Jabal Amelian, and at least 38 other senior officials in a single window that Tehran's own military later described as a beheading strike. Iran's response was massive. Between February 28th and March 4th, over 90 attempted Iranian strikes on Israel were recorded ballistic missiles, Shahed loitering munitions, and modified Fateh 110 variants. Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow. 3 worked at maximum tempo, but some got through. Residential buildings in Tel Aviv, a commercial district near Jerusalem, at least 10 civilians killed. Iran was burning through its arsenal at a historically unsustainable rate. By March 4th, U.S. Admiral Brad Cooper confirmed publicly what U.S. ISR assets had been tracking in real time. Iran's ballistic missile launch rate had fallen 90% from day one. Drone rates dropped 83%. But on March 10th, a senior IRGC commander announced the shift in doctrine through Fars news agency. From this point forward, Iran would only fire missiles carrying payloads of 1,000 kilograms or more. No more saturation. High-impact penetration only. Fewer launches, each one engineered to defeat layered air defense by raw kinetic energy. This was not a collapsing military. This was a military rationing its most lethal remaining inventory for a decisive blow. The Northern Front ignites. At 0200 hours on March 2nd, with Iranian strike fires still burning in satellite imagery over Isfahan, Hezbollah's command issued the activation code word to its Fajr 5 and Zelzal, 2 batteries across southern Lebanon. The first salvo targeted a missile defense installation south of Haifa, an Arrow radar node critical to northern Israel's layered air defense. The logic was deliberate. Blind the sensors first, then saturate the engagement envelope. The IDF Combat Information Center logged launch signatures at 0204 hours. Within 90 seconds, Iron Dome batteries across the Galilee were tracking multiple inbound tracks, most intercepted. But the act itself, the first Hezbollah launch since the November 2024 ceasefire, crossed the threshold that IDF Northern Command had standing authorization to answer with overwhelming force. At 0300 hours, F-15 IRA-AM strike packages egressed from Ramat David and Hatzarim on preloaded target sets. The bombs fell on Beirut before dawn. The strikes killed Daoud Alizadeh, confirmed IRGC-Quds Force commander for the Lebanon branch, a general who had been secretly coordinating weapons deliveries from a Beirut apartment that Israeli SIGINT had monitored since January. Simultaneously, Israeli jets hit Al-Qard al-Hassan, Hezbollah's shadow banking network, in Beirut and Tyre. By March 3rd, Defense Minister Katz authorized a formal ground incursion under the IDF 91st Division Merkava Mark, 4 tanks rolling into Kfar Kila, Hula, Kfar Shoba, Yaroun, and Kiam. Towns cleared 18 months earlier, reoccupied. UNIFIL confirmed each one. It was ignored. Israel simultaneously shelled southern Syria in Deraa Governorate, warning Damascus that Iraqi militia transit toward the Golan would not be tolerated. The electronic and urban battlefield. By March 7th, IDF EW squadrons flying modified G550 Shahed intelligence platforms were operating continuous orbits over the Lebanese coast, jamming Hezbollah's command relay nodes and severing lateral communication between Beirut sleeper cells and Bekaa Valley rocket brigades. On the ground, Hezbollah's Radwan force engaged IDF armored units at least 6 times in the first week. 2 IDF soldiers confirmed killed. Multiple Merkava vehicles sustained direct hits from repositioned Kornet EM systems anti-armor capability rebuilt during the 4-month ceasefire under IRGC-QF advisors still present in country. 5 of those advisors, all senior Quds Force commanders, were killed in a single IDF strike on a Beirut building. Dam, ER. 40,000 feet. Complete EM silence. No warning. 3 floors destroyed. The IRGC officers inside never left. Their presence and their deaths confirmed what Israel had been asserting for months. Hezbollah was an extension of the IRGC's expeditionary force, commanded from Lebanese soil. The 100 rocket barrage and the Beirut leaflet drop. At 1,847 hours on March 12th, Hezbollah launched its largest single barrage of the conflict, over 100 rockets and drones in a coordinated volley toward northern and central Israel, timed to coincide with a fresh Iranian ballistic missile wave from the Zagros range. Iron Dome and David's Sling engaged across a 140-kilometer front simultaneously. Most stopped, but not all. Rockets impacted in populated areas of northern Israel, triggering evacuations of zones resettled with ceremony after the 2024 ceasefire. The message was unmistakable. Hezbollah could reach deep into Israel on demand, whenever it chose. Israel's answer came at dawn on March 13th. Israeli aircraft destroyed the Zrarieh Bridge, a major span across the Litani River. For the first time in the current offensive, Israel had struck civilian infrastructure. The IDF's justification: Hezbollah was using the bridge to move personnel and ammunition between northern and southern Lebanon. Katz issued a direct statement. Lebanon would face increasing costs through damage to infrastructure and loss of territory until Hezbollah was disarmed. Then IDF aircraft dropped leaflets over Beirut. The text referenced Gaza, 81% of all structures damaged or destroyed per UN Satellite Center analysis, and stated Lebanon was receiving the newspaper of the new reality. QR codes on the leaflets connected to Israeli Shin Bet recruitment operations, according to Lebanese Army intelligence. Psychological warfare from the sky, over a city already living under sirens. By March 14th, 773 killed in Lebanon, 1,933 wounded, including 103 children. Over 800,000 displaced 1 in 7 of the entire Lebanese population. The fault lines no statement will fix. The Lebanese government condemned Hezbollah's launches as irresponsible and ordered arrests. France's Macron called for a stand-down and pledged armored vehicles to the Lebanese armed forces. UN Special Coordinator Hennis Plasschaert flew to Tel Aviv for talks on March 9th. No ceasefire emerged. Lebanon's proposal for direct negotiations with Israel was rejected by both Washington and Jerusalem. The message from both capitals was uniform. The offensive would continue until Hezbollah's military capacity no longer existed. Meanwhile, Iran struck Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar and Saudi Aramco's Ras Tanura refinery. Qatar arrested 10 IRGC intelligence operatives collecting data on U.S. military infrastructure. The UK's Akrotiri base on Cyprus took a direct drone hit, and in what may be the most significant friendly fire incident in recent U.S. military history, a Kuwaiti F-A-18 pilot operating under degraded IFF procedures in a saturated threat environment shot down 3 U.S. Air Force F-15s in a single engagement over the northern Gulf. Zero public acknowledgement beyond a terse joint statement referencing an ongoing safety investigation. Hezbollah has demonstrated that after 16 months of near-daily Israeli strikes, after the killing of Nasrallah, after IRGC supply routes through Syria were severed, after 5 Quds Force commanders were killed in a Beirut apartment, it can still fire 100 rockets in a single barrage into the Israeli heartland. The IDF is advancing into terrain that Hezbollah's Radwan force was specifically trained to destroy Israeli armor in. There is no terrain objective whose seizure will cause Hezbollah to cease to exist. Somewhere in the Bekaa Valley, in a hardened underground facility that Israeli satellites have mapped for 18 months and that no airstrike has reached, Hezbollah's remaining Zelzal, 2 batteries are being readied for the next barrage. What would you do if you were the Israeli Prime Minister tonight? Push deeper and finish it? Or negotiate before Beirut becomes the next Gaza? Comment below, because the decision made in the next 72 hours will define the map of the Middle East for the next decade. Stay sharp, stay informed. Peace in this region is not maintained through diplomatic gestures. It is maintained by whoever has the will and the weapons to enforce it. And right now, everyone in this war believes that's them.